NATO's and the CIA's terrorist sponsoring program in Europe. So this is an important one to study because it proves that there are more nuances in this whole the free world versus the rest of the world narrative, or Western nations versus terrorist nations. It's a lot more complicated. And Operation Gladio, we talked earlier about Operation Northwood. So that was one which on record the US government was planning terrorist acts on US soil against US citizens to be blamed on Cuba. But now, and this is quite similar, except the difference is it wasn't just people conspiring to carry out false flag terrorism or stage government terrorism, but actually succeeding in carrying out those plans. So Operation Gladio is undisputed historical fact. It was part of a World War II program set up by the CIA and NATO to thwart future communist invasions or influence in Italy and Western Europe. So this was in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, and many claim it's still going on. Now, the existence of Operation Gladio was actually confirmed and admitted by the Italian government in 1990, and that was after a judge, Felice Carson, discovered the network in the course of his investigations into right-wing terrorism. And Italian Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti admitted Gladio's existence, but tried to minimize its significance. And so the main function of the Gladio-style groups, in the absence of a Soviet invasion, seems to have been to discredit left-wing groups and politicians through the use of strategy of tension, including false flag terrorism. And that includes fear propaganda, agent provocateurs, which are people who often enter demonstrations and make them turn violent. And of course, one of the biggest ways to manipulate the public in this instance was acts of terrorism. And so they were framing communists and left-wing political opponents by making it seem as if they were committing these acts of terrorism. So as I said, it's historically accepted and confirmed. It's probably one of the biggest confirmed examples of false flag terrorism. So the documentation, the resolution, the confessions as well, and the convictions all confirm that Gladio is much more than the media or government would have you believe. They would have you believe it's a mere conspiracy theory. No, it's a conspiracy fact. So there was the evidence for Operation Gladio includes in 1980 the bombing of a Bologna train station, which killed 85 people, is widely regarded as a Gladio operation. It was initially blamed on communist Red Brigades and right-wing and fascist elements within Italy. Sorry, right-wing and fascist governments were discovered to be the culprits, so not the left-wing people, not the left-wing extremists or the communist Red Brigades, but actually right-wing fascist extremists. And 2 Italian Secret Service agents, and also the head of an infamous P2 Masonic Lodge, were convicted in the connection to the bombing. And then also in 1969 in Italy, there was actually one called the Piazza Fontana Massacre in Milan, and it killed 16 and injured and maimed close to 100, I think it was. And during the trial of right-wing extremists, a former Italian counterintelligence head alleged that the massacre had been carried out by the Italian stay-behind army and right-wing terrorists on the orders of the US Secret Service, CIA, in order to discredit Italian communists. And so there's many more. There was another one in, there was another shooting in Belgium, which in 1985, which killed 28 and leaving many more injured. And once again, that was shown, investigations linked that to a Belgian right-wing group. So, and there's other far-right terrorists linked to Gladio that have been shown to be committing the acts of terrorism that were originally reported to be communist terrorist acts. And so, out of all that, you've got a lot of evidence, but then you've also got judges saying that yes, Gladio was real. You've also got in 1990, the European Parliament even passed a resolution condemning Operation Gladio. The resolution requested full investigations and a total dismantlement of the parliamentary sectors involved. Neither of which have come to pass, which makes many people think Gladio. There's a term called Gladio B, which is like a second, which is people who claim that Gladio is still being conducted throughout Europe or Western Europe and being blamed on terrorists. And I guess that would be more, now would be moving into, instead of communists in this era, would be moving into maybe some Islamic terrorism is allowed to happen, is Gladio is infiltrating those groups and steering it towards happening. We don't know, but it gives you pause for thought at least. But so you had the judge, you had the European Union commenting on this, and you've got untold testimonials from intelligence agents throughout Western Europe to say, yeah, they were doing this terrorism and not the communists. So Operation Gladio is one of the, if you're really wondering, well, Operation Northwoods was never carried out. Is there ever staged or government-sponsored